Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture, and coming up today, I'm going to tell you about the AEW wrestler who's about to get a mega push. On top of that, I've got news on a couple of injuries from this week's episode of Dynamite, and on top of that, some last-minute production notes relating to Le Dinner Debonair.
Plus, I'm going to tell you about the WWE star who's about to get pushed to the moon. And I've got some notes on WWE's creative process relating to this week's Monday Night Raw. This is the news.
But before that, me and my personal collection of WhatCulture board games are going to tell you all about Kenny Omega, who is in line for a monster push in AEW. Now, you could have probably gleaned this yourselves from the way the guy was presented on Dynamite this week. I mean, Justin Roberts read out like 400 million different accolades, including he once wrestled in North Carolina, as he was introduced for his match with Sonny Kiss. Special introduction, special music, dancing girls with brooms. Hopefully we get some dancing hunks with brooms next week, by the way. Balance it out. Comes out, kills Sonny Kiss in like 2 moves, does the best facial expression of all time. Everything about that presentation told you it was the kind of superstar presentation that Kenny Omega hasn't always had in AEW. But this was by design. The report comes to us via Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, saying that AEW always planned on kind of keeping Kenny on the periphery in year 1, do some tag stuff, do some work putting other people over, and then year 2 was going to be his breakout year. He was going to become the single star he was in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that is now taking flight. Matt Jackson recently said something similar in an interview, talking about who's going to be pushed by AEW in year 2. Jungle Boy was brought up in that, Darby Allin as well. Kenny Omega obviously leading the pack. So it looks very much like Kenny Omega's position as the favourite to win the World Title Eliminator Tournament is justified, and soon the cleaner is coming home.
Yeah, I think if you'd forgotten about what a star Kenny Omega was, that match in 9 seconds or whatever it was against Sonny Kiss, where a third of it was the handshake at the beginning, reminded you of what a superstar Kenny Omega is, or at least can be in AEW. And I like the fact that they experimented with other things and, showcased other talent rather than, and you can't really win in this situation. Had they pushed immediately Bucks, Cody and Omega, then they would have been accused of just promoting their own. And yet when they promote other stars and, put, say, Moxley or Jericho as the front and centre figures at the front of AEW, they're said to be forgetting about their own stardom and not being the Kenny we saw in New Japan, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be a real one to watch in this World Title Eliminator Tournament, of course, against Fenix next week, presumably against Hangman or Wardlow in the finals. I can't wait, Andy.
I'm really fired up to see how this tournament progresses, and I forgot how much I missed single star Kenny Omega until this week. So looking forward to seeing him level up. I'm looking forward to the return of his most compelling persona, the Cleaner.
Yeah, holding Sonny Kiss's hand in the air at the end of that match like an absolute bell end.
Just a dickhead.
Anyway, from AEW's Kenny Omega to WWE's version of that, in at least the person who's going to get a massive push going forward. It is going to be Elias on Monday Night Raw, who is set to get that push. This is according to Inside the Ropes. There's Gary Cassidy giving us the report on this one. Reportedly, he is going to be a staple of Monday Night Raw going forward. The draft of him from SmackDown to Raw, which happened recently, of course, was said to be a no-brainer. He is one of the only 4 matches at time of recording we know for Hell in a Cell this weekend. Didn't they only announce a certain handful of matches ahead of last year's Hell in a Cell? I'm sure it'll be fine on Sunday. Join me and Adam Nicholas for the live stream for that. But yes, he's feuding with Jeff Hardy right now over a car crash that quite clearly Jeff Hardy didn't do. But anyway, I'm a big fan of Elias, heel Elias, I should say, and maybe less rock concerts or album showcases. I'm more just slagging off superstars and when they get back out on the road where he is.
He's a very entertaining guy, Elias. People forget, his main roster introduction was kind of weird when he was just walking around the stands doing nothing, but he got really over for a while, to the point that WWE were forced to turn him babyface, as is often the case when a heel is just really entertaining and they're getting babyface pops and the crowd's clapping along when he's doing his songs and so forth. So, it'll be an interesting one to see how it pans out, because I'm always of the view that you don't know how somebody's main event push is going to go until you actually kind of make efforts to elevate them organically into that spotlight. So I'm looking forward to see how it progresses. I mean, the guy's obviously jacked as hell. He's charismatic, not the most refined pro wrestler in the world, but hey man, you don't need to be Johnny 7 stars to prosper in a main event spotlight. You have other attributes as well. So hey, let's see how it goes. And the reporting of Gary Cassidy I trust 100%. So I would expect Elias to start making inroads very soon.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to be Johnny 7 stars. You just need to twat people over the back with the guitar, and he's got that nailed. So we're all good.
Exactly, brother. Jeff Jarrett 2020. Here we go. Dynamite, injuries, bad news. This is a story from yesterday actually, but we didn't have space for it on the video, so we're covering it today, and new details have emerged anyway. A couple of injuries from this week's episode of Dynamite. The most notable is probably Alex Reynolds, who was visibly knocked out wrestling in the main event. Private Party went to do their, they call it the Hardy Party, the splash leg drop combo. He got hit right in the head. The big leg dropped right on his skull, and the poor lad was clearly out for a few minutes. He wasn't attended to at all for a while. It was actually the Blade who kind of pulled him towards the corner and tagged him out so he could get the hell out of there. No immediate medical attention until after the show when Cody came down as well. Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer /Figure4 Online has said that Reynolds apparently felt great after the show, although we are awaiting a status update on him. Rey Fenix was the other fella hurt. He was, of course, wrestling his brother Penta El Zero M in their bruising tournament clash. It was a crazy match with all kind of big bombs, as you might expect. And Fenix was apparently hurt. He landed on his neck and shoulder after attempting a head scissors from the top rope. He was visibly communicating with Aubrey Edwards for a while after that. They were making sure that nothing serious was afoot here, and he was able to finish the match, obviously get back into the groove of the whole thing. Again, no word on whether or not he is going to be out, but he's set to face Kenny Omega next week. We await further updates. Fingers crossed that neither man is badly hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed Fenix is able to have the, banger we all expect he and Kenny Omega can have on next week's Dynamite. Of course, going head-to-head with Halloween Havoc over on NXT. And yeah, the Reynolds one, I didn't notice it just watching the show because you're so concentrated on Young Bucks breaking up falls, Private Party getting involved, Butcher and Blade, but it subsequently was everywhere yesterday afternoon here in the UK on Twitter. That clip of him just not moving, it was really worrying, to be honest. Not moving, then just being dragged to the corner, and Blade just tagging him out and just leaving him out. I think some of the blame has to go on the referee here. You can't. I saw a lot of people say this. You can't just leave someone in that state, whether you think they're selling or not, and not check on them. Of course, great to hear Cody saying that Reynolds is feeling better or feeling great now, and fingers crossed, for a good full recovery very soon for him and for Rey Fenix. But worrying times watching that clip back. Let's move on and talk about Monday Night Raw though now, because a lot of the time we hear about Monday Night Raw being ripped up and rewritten 5 minutes before the show starts or whatever. But according to Fightful Select, this week's episode of Monday Night Raw was actually really well organised. It was all done and dusted by Sunday night, so much so that the Monday Night Raw writers were just kind of kicking about on Monday, it seems. Now, this week's Monday Night Raw wasn't great to my memory, but this is, I suppose, a sign that things are getting fixed in place beforehand, whether you think their ideas are good or bad. I may assume this week's Raw plan was just bury Retribution in capital letters. But I don't know whether this is good or bad news the more I think about it, Andy.
It's kind of weird that we live in a world where a normal day of scripting where everything is finalized, or most things are finalized by Sunday, is news, but it kind of is, because we hear so often about chaos on Raw and Vince McMahon scrap and stuff. So hey, if it's easier for the writers and if it puts less stress on the people involved at a very stressful time to be producing a wrestling show, then good stuff. Let's go. More of this. More of this.
Maybe they've just gone, have a nice rest on this Monday, because next Monday, the Monday Night Raw immediately after Hell in a Cell, we're going to be writing the show during the show. So
get used to that, brothers. I would love to see that, actually. It'd be a catastrophe. It'd be hilarious. Last minute production. Debonair. It was AEW this week who had the last minute production stuff going on. Chris Jericho came out after this week's show and addressed the live crowd. We've got a transcription courtesy of Fightful here. Here's what he said about producing and things. If only you knew what we went through to get that up on air, basically, Debonair, Debonair. Basically, we had to get that ready to go about 22 minutes before it aired, and we filmed last night, the previous night, until 2 a.m. You never know what's going to happen on live TV, but you buckle up, get the job done, and put on a great show. Make sure you guys have fun. They certainly had fun. Most people I've seen online had fun, apart from people who think it's going to kill the business. Strange comment that, but you'll always get it. Hey, they got it done, and people were entertained.
Exactly. It may have been last minute, it certainly was worth it, and I still can't get over MJF's voice in that, if I'm honest. Beautiful. And by the way, on that topic of what you're saying there, Andy, about people talking about comedy and wrestling and it ruining the whole thing, blah, blah. Myself and Michael Sidgwick yesterday actually recorded a podcast going really into detail on this and giving our thoughts on it. That's going to be out on Sunday. Well worth it. Listen now, What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcast from. Anyway, let's move on to your Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, you want to get in touch with us. Brandon gives us our first question today saying, hello lads, do you think WWE... First of all, sorry, Brandon, good dog. Do you think WWE would benefit more in terms of long-term story booking by having pay-per-views once every 2 months instead of once every couple of weeks? I'm including NXT in this.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world at all, and it might help them in a way rather than going, hey, here's 3 of the same match on 3 consecutive pay-per-views or whatever, 3 times in 3 months. Again, that stuff gets kind of tedious and so forth, although I would say that there are probably bigger problems with WWE's long-term storytelling that maybe can't be addressed by a mere scheduling change.
Yes, exactly. But I do like every sort of couple of months, I think it strikes that balance between WWE and AEW. You know, I love the fact that AEW space out, 4 pay-per-views a year?
Yeah.
But I kind of want more. And with, WWE's, there's so many pay-per-views that they do that are set in stone alongside the big 4, your Money in the Banks, etc., that you couldn't just suddenly go, 4 pay-per-views a year or whatever. But clearly, I mean, look at Hell in a Cell. They're going to hoy, Keith Lee, Braun Strowman on there, and I can't think of many more. Me and Hamlet are going to preview Hell in a Cell a little bit later on today as a podcast, and we're struggling for things to talk about, other than, of course, Otis cashing in the briefcase. Second question today comes from Wild Rover, who says, what do you all think about Alexa having a funhouse gimmick like Bray? And if she did, what kids show host would you want to see her do a dark take on? This is because Wild Rover actually tweeted a suggestion about Lunette from the Big Comfy Couch. Lost on me and Andy, I'm afraid. And Alexa even likes it. I would suggest, yes, have her do this character. She sort of just showed up in her Freddy Krueger top on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. But I'd have her do a dark take on Dave Benson Phillips of Get Your Own Back.
And I'll go Y-Bird from Playdays. There you go.
And people say we're niche. Final question today comes from Ben D. Kenobi. First of all, Ben, he says, Leela, my grandma's dog, says hello. Good girl. But Ben says, hi guys, return of full crowds after the ongoing Global Bastard will be a mass gathering like SmackDown after 9/11. Do you think WWE or AEW will pull world title changes to show a new era? And if so, who?
AEW strikes me as the kind of company who are just going to progress with their booking plans regardless and not alter anything too long term that they may have already had in the chamber. So I don't necessarily think that they would do something as a consequence of fans returning. However, I do think they'll have a few palpable moments set up with that in mind. WWE, I think, they're a moment company. We create moments and we make movies, pal. Water, Beyond the Mat. So I can
watched that the other day on Netflix. I've never seen it all the way through for the first time.
It's tremendous. If you got Netflix, you need to watch Beyond the Mat if you're a wrestling fan. It's must-see viewing.
And who's Matt? That's the question you got to find out. Okay, sorry.
This is it, brother. But I can see WWE doing it. A cathartic babyface title win would go down really well. Yeah,
obviously it's kind of difficult to say who we think should do it because you need to kind of take into account where we are in the year, who's champion, etc. But as was talked about when this all sort of kicked off, I could easily see them, if we knew it was going to be in a month's time, taking the title off someone like a Drew McIntyre to give him that coronation that he didn't get at WrestleMania. And fair play to Drew, he's really tried to hold this company and show together in a weird time. And certainly him more so than like a Braun Strowman. I think he deserves that moment in front of a packed house. So hopefully that's what they do. Let's move on to today's and finally, and shout out to @lampant on Twitter for sharing. We haven't had one of these for a while. This child's toy of AJ Styles. Normally it's like, oh, it's the wrong packaging, and here's Maurice in Samoa Joe packaging or whatever. No, this is just AJ Styles with a massive receding hairline. Oh, I know we all can think of people who've gone, I may have a receding hairline, but I'll just grow my hair long and pull it forward. What's the worst that can happen?
There's not even a 5 head AJ's got in this. There's like a 10 head. It's ridiculous. Respectful. I love seeing the crap action figures, man.
Yeah, exactly. More of that sort of thing. And obviously your pets. Let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts, SmackDown preview, and Wrestle Culture with a hashtag Bloody Good quiz coming later on. And join me and Adam Nicholas, as I said, for our Hell in a Cell live stream on Sunday night. Good luck, everyone. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter @WhatCultureWWE. Watch there. Follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray
at Andy H. Murray. Today's H stands for Happy Birthday, Carmella.
Oh, happy birthday, Carmella. I reckon she's going to be back very soon. There's a lot of speculation immediately following Hell in a Cell that Bailey or Sasha is going to have to feud with her, and her new sexy lady thing is going to be back. Happy birthday, Carmella. Dance? No, we're not going to do a dance break. Follow me and Adam at Adam Wilborn on Twitter. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.